One act of kindness destroyed an innocent man's life, but the truth came too late. It was around 10 p.m. when 28-year-old Daniel arrived at the bus stop after a long day. Unfortunately, the last bus had already left. Disappointed, Daniel sighed and began the long walk back home. As he walked through the dimly lit road, he noticed a young woman stumbling from side to side. She could barely stand. Her clothes were dusty, her speech was slurred, and it was obvious she was heavily drunk. Daniel looked around. The road was almost empty. If I leave her here, he thought, something terrible could happen to her. He approached her gently. "Excuse me, where do you live? Let me take you home." The woman, whose name was Sarah, pointed down the road. Daniel supported her as they walked. A few minutes later he asked again, "Is this your house?" She shook her head and pointed somewhere else. They walked again. "Is it this one?" Again, she pointed in another direction. Daniel repeated this several times, but every answer was different. Sarah was too intoxicated to recognize where she lived. Daniel became worried. He couldn't leave her alone, but he also didn't know where she belonged. Finally, he made a difficult decision. "I'll take her to my house for tonight. Tomorrow morning, when she's sober, she'll remember where she lives." When they arrived, Daniel knocked on the door of his female neighbor. He hoped Sarah could spend the night there. But no one answered. His neighbor had already left for an overnight church program. Daniel had no choice. He laid Sarah carefully on his own bed, covered her with a blanket, and chose to sleep on the floor. He never touched her. He believed he had done the right thing. The next morning, Sarah woke up confused. She looked around the strange room in panic. "Who are you? What am I doing here?" Daniel calmly tried to explain everything. He told her about the bus stop, how he found her drunk, how she couldn't remember where she lived, and why he brought her home. But Sarah refused to listen. She rushed outside screaming for help. Within minutes, neighbors gathered. Before Daniel could understand what was happening, Sarah returned with her parents and the police. Daniel was arrested immediately. No one believed his story. There were no witnesses, no security cameras, no evidence, only his words against hers. During the investigation, another shocking discovery was made. Sarah was pregnant. Her parents were devastated. Everyone immediately assumed Daniel had assaulted her. The courtroom turned against him. No matter how much he cried and insisted he was innocent, nobody listened. The judge found him guilty. Just before he was taken away to prison, Daniel made one final request. "Please, don't terminate the pregnancy. Let the baby be born. When I finish serving my sentence, let's do a DNA test. If the child is mine, then I deserve every punishment. But if the child is not mine, then you will know I have been telling the truth." The court agreed. Daniel was sent to prison. For 1 long year, he lived behind bars. He lost his freedom. He lost his job. His reputation was destroyed. His family suffered. Friends abandoned him. People called him a monster. Meanwhile, Sarah gave birth to a baby. When Daniel was finally released, the court ordered a DNA test. Everyone waited for the results. Days later, the courtroom fell silent. The DNA result was negative. Daniel was not the father. The real man who had gotten Sarah pregnant was someone who had assaulted her before Daniel ever found her that night. Sarah had been too intoxicated to remember what had happened before Daniel met her. The innocent man had paid the price for another person's crime. Sarah broke down in tears. Her parents couldn't lift their heads. The lawyers had nothing left to say. The same people who had called Daniel a criminal were now asking for forgiveness. The court ordered compensation. But there was another problem. Sarah's family had spent almost everything they owned on lawyers and the case. They sold valuables. They borrowed money. They were left with almost nothing. One afternoon, Sarah carried her baby and went to Daniel's house with her parents. They stood at his door crying, "We are sorry. This is all we have. Please, accept it." Daniel looked at the small amount of money. Then he remembered the lonely nights in prison, the humiliation, the pain, the years of his life that could never be returned. He quietly said, "No amount of money can pay for what I lost." The family burst into tears. After a long silence, Daniel took a deep breath. "I'll accept it, not because it is enough, but because I don't want any of us to continue living in this pain." Everyone cried. Justice had finally spoken. But justice had arrived too late. Because sometimes, even when an innocent person is proven innocent, the scars never disappear. Moral of the story: never judge a person before knowing the full truth. One false accusation can destroy a life, and sometimes, even the truth cannot restore everything that was lost.